Mike, are there plans to reach out to the families of those 4 policemen?
I would very much like to, and you know, obviously right now is not the appropriate time, and I think the height of their grief and pain, it would be inappropriate and perhaps even hurtful. But I would very much like to, you know, have some conversation, if for nothing else, to, you know, either let them vent if they feel like that I'm the person responsible, or if they have questions as to why I would have done what I did. I think that there are, you know, hopefully a lot of people that, you know, can go through and process what role they had in the point of Clemmons being out. And, you know, I clearly played a role in that by the commutation that I gave back in 2000.
And with this commutation, did you know back then of his behavior in prison with the sexual assaults, battery, misconduct?
There were a number of things on his record, most of which was early in his prison term, which had been thoroughly reviewed, not just by me, but by the parole board before they made the recommendation. They were the ones who first reviewed and interviewed him and went through his record. That was all clearly a part of the file.
What role did his professed prayer have in your decision to?
None at all. I know everybody, you know, one of the things that I find so sometimes frustrating is that people make assumptions and they jump to conclusions, and they assume that if a person had faith, that made them more likely to get some type of consideration from me. Quite frankly, it tended to make them less likely, because I'm not too much of a believer in jailhouse and foxhole religion just because a person claims to have had a conversion. I think you want to see it by the life. What I really looked at in that case more than anything was the length of the sentence for the crime that was committed, and the fact that it was not consistent with sentences given to other people, not even close to people of similar criminal backgrounds.
And who's to blame for him being out that day, Washington or Arkansas?
You know, once again, I think we could argue that all day long. I'll let people make decisions. There's new information that came out last week about some of the paperwork issues. But, you know, what good does that do to those families? Not a bit. So if somebody wants to play the blame game, let them go ahead and do it. They're going to do it anyway. But I think it's irrelevant in light of the tragedy that happened. If there are steps that should be improved upon for the future, sure, that has some value. But I'm not going to get into that and speculate today.
And you said you would like to reach out to his families. What would you say to them?
Well, what I would say to them, I think, is to tell them that, you know, I'm extremely sorry that they had the totally unnecessary and senseless and savage pain to their families that they have had. And that if there was any way that I could go back 9 years and look into the future, but I also would want them to know, as I said to this group, that I acted upon what was in front of me, which was the file. I did not see the future, and I could not. And I would have made the same decision, because the decision I made was based on a teenage kid, adjudicated at 17, getting an incredibly long sentence that was disproportionate to anything the state typically gives out. And so the question is, you know, fault me for that if you will, but you also have to ask, was that a just sentence for what he had done? And if you say it is, then there's, you know, the end of the discussion.
Governor, many of the prosecutors have spoken out against all the computations, all those things that happened. What do you say to those prosecutors who have spoken against you doing that? Do you feel you've kind of second-guessed what a jury and all the work of lawmen and prosecutors have done?
Well, first of all, you know, I hear that, and I think, well, let's see, every time a plea bargain is given, didn't the prosecutor use some discretion in his judgment? Didn't he decide not to press 20 charges and only to press 5? Why? Wasn't that a decision to, in essence, commute before even the adjudication process? That was a discretionary judgment on the part of the prosecutor to decide not to push for as much as he or she could have pushed for. I guess I don't understand why there's a double standard. We all make judgments in the criminal justice system. That's how it's supposed to work, that we look at what's ahead of us and we make sure that while justice is blind, that it's not dumb, that it makes decisions that require judgment. And sometimes the judgment is faulty. Sometimes it's an error. But you don't want to just have a robotic kind of decision. And I think it was interesting, the first comments that came was, you know, that this was a case where the prosecutor claimed he had objected. Later, he had to admit that there had been no objection, and I think that sort of spoke to itself. I'm going to move on to another topic. I think we've covered that about as much, and I've said so many things on my website and in other places that honestly I don't think there's anything else to add to it. So
There's one thing you haven't addressed, actually.
I'm not going to address it on that topic. I'll take anything else.
So running for president. Are you worried about negative advertising?
No, I mean, because first of all, I haven't made any decision about it, and secondly, if people want to use that politically, they will, and if it's not that, it'll be something else. Politics is a brutal game, and if you go into it, you clearly understand that everything's, out there.
Do you remain disinclined to run, as you said most lately on the...
Well, when Chris Wallace interviewed me, I mean, he kept pressing more likely, less likely, and, the decision's not being made today, so I'm not making it today. And, so my answer is just basically what it was out there. I'm not ready to make a decision that I want to run or that I'm not going to. I truly enjoy what I'm doing right now. One of the things I like a lot, I like the life of a private citizen. I hadn't had one in almost 20 years, and there's been a refreshing sort of freedom to that. Because, if I don't want to answer your question, John, I just tell you.
I appreciate you answering that one.
I know, you should.
Surprise.
I know, you should be. You should be thrilled and honored to the depth of your soul. No, but I mean, it's kind of nice to be able to just say, yeah, I don't want to deal with that. And I like that. I like kind of being on the other side of things. It's been refreshing, and I still get a chance to be a part of framing the debate of issues that are important to me. But I'm not ruling anything else out. I think it's just too soon.